Little things used to mean so much to Shelley. I used to think they were kind of trivial. Believe me, nothing is trivial.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're looking at tragic times performers passed away before they were able to see their final productions released to the public or even complete them.
We're all dying, aren't we? All the husbands and all the wives. Every minute.
Tony Todd, Final Destination Bloodlines.
You are not content with the stories, so I was obliged to come.
Best known for his work as the title horror icon in the Candyman franchise, Todd was a prolific actor and voice artist with over 250 credits throughout his career. Another scary franchise he was involved in was Final Destination, where he played the creepy William Bloodworth, a role he reprised in 2025's Final Destination Bloodlines. However, before its release, Todd sadly passed away in 2024 after a long illness. Several months after his death, in 2025, Werewolf Game was released, with Todd in his element as a baddie. Also in the same year, Cutter's Club finally debuted, which Todd originally shot in 2005.
We are a small, gifted group of surgeons.
Cory Monteith, All the Wrong Reasons, and Mechanic. From a jock to a reluctant Glee member, to falling in love with the club, Finn Hudson was a fan-favorite character. Working on Glee slingshotted Monteith into fame and a relationship with co-star Lea Michele. Yet behind the scenes, he struggled with substance issues.
I hadn't found myself at all. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea where I was going. I was trying to, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm gonna be this bad kid. And other kids are gonna be like, oh, he's the bad kid, and so he's cool, and so they'll wanna hang out with me. Do you know what I'm saying?
After getting treatment as a teenager, the problem returned in 2013. Sadly, that year, Monteith was found unresponsive in a hotel after an overdose of multiple substances. After Glee took a break and reworked the show, they had an emotional send-off to Finn and Monteith in the episode The Quarterback. Shortly after passing, his two final productions were screened at the Toronto International Film Festival, with Mechanic and All the Wrong Reasons.
Could you get me some crack filler from the warehouse? There should be some tubes of it somewhere in there. I hate the look of an unfinished office.
Anton Yelchin, We Don't Belong Here. In 1989, 6 months after his birth, Yelchin's family left the Soviet Union and moved to the US. From there, he developed into a rising star in Hollywood, from performances in Like Crazy and Terminator Salvation. Yet Yelchin's most famous role was in the rebooted Star Trek franchise as Pavel Chekhov.
Gravitational pull
However, weeks before the third installment, Star Trek Beyond, was set to come out in 2016, tragedy struck. As Yelchin was getting mail, his Jeep Grand Cherokee rolled and pinned him, taking his life.
212 crashes and 41 injuries have been blamed on this rollaway problem, and now, possibly, the death of a Hollywood star.
The actor's parents issued a lawsuit against the car model's manufacturers, Fiat Chrysler, which was settled in 2018. Following his tragic death, several other films featuring Yelchin were released, the last of which was 2017's We Don't Belong Here.
If things are so bad, and you move through it, and you go through it, and you live through it, then everything should just be good. Things should just be good. Am I wrong?
Phil Hartman, Small Soldiers. One half of creating Pee Wee Herman alongside Paul Reubens, Hartman found massive comedy success as a long-running cast member on Saturday Night Live in the late 80s and early 90s. He then began voicing several characters on The Simpsons, including the iconic Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure.
You kids might remember me from such educational films as Lead Paint, Delicious but Deadly, and Here Comes the Metric System.
In 1998, Hartman was fatally shot in his sleep by his wife, Bryn Omdahl. Shortly after, while under the influence of multiple substances, she took her own life. Omdal's brother later issued a lawsuit against Pfizer, which produced a medication she was on. The suit was settled for $100,000. Hartman's final live-action film role was in 1998's Small Soldiers. He also lent his voice to the English dub for Kiki's Delivery Service and Buster and Chauncey's Silent Night.
If you wake up tomorrow and find a white cat, it's me.
Jean Harlo, Saratoga. One of Hollywood's original blonde bombshells, Harlo began her acting career in 1928. It was 1930s Hell's Angels when her career started to take off, turning her into an icon of the industry.
I want to be free. I want to be gay and have fun. Life's short, and I want to live while I'm alive.
In 1937, Harlo was filming alongside Clark Gable for Saratoga when she began to feel unwell and collapsed. She was soon admitted to the hospital with kidney failure. Unfortunately, Harlo didn't recover and passed away. MGM, the production company behind Saratoga, originally wanted to recast Harlo's role with a different performer. However, with her fans hating that idea, Mary Dees stepped in as Harlo's body double for the final scenes. Saratoga was released several weeks after the actor's death, becoming one of the year's highest-grossing films.
But are you sure that your horse will win if that Dixie Gordon rides him?
I'll bet my farm on it.
Yes, and will Mr. Madison make a large bet with that Bradley?
Big enough to break him.
Yes, well, that's all I want to know.
Heather O'Rourke, Poltergeist 3. With the creepy words of They're Here in 1982's Poltergeist, O'Rourke made her legend in the film industry as a child. After appearing in the 1986 sequel as Carol Ann Freeling, O'Rourke returned in 1988's Poltergeist 3. However, months before the film debuted, the young actor collapsed at home.
I don't want to talk about it.
When you talk about things that bother you, they go away.
No, if you talk about things, they happen.
Suffering from septic shock from congenital stenosis of the intestine, O'Rourke had multiple heart attacks and sadly didn't make it. O'Rourke's mother, Kathleen, issued a lawsuit against the hospital that treated her daughter for wrongful death after misdiagnosing her with Crohn's disease.
They were treating her medically with drugs, whereas in fact what they should have done almost a year before her death was to operate and remove this narrowed portion of the bowel. And that's a fairly routine procedure.
The suit was settled out of court. Carrie Fisher, Wonderwell. With a storied career in the industry, not only was she an actor, famously playing Leia Organa in Star Wars, Fisher was also a script doctor who worked on several big productions. In 2015, she returned to the space opera franchise with the sequel Star Wars The Force Awakens.
You changed your hair.
Same jacket.
In 2016, a year before the release of Star Wars The Last Jedi, Fisher had a heart attack on a flight back from the UK. While she was taken to a hospital, she unfortunately passed away. Her mother, the legendary Debbie Reynolds, died the day after. With archive footage, 2019 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker gave Leia and Fisher an ending to their story. In 2023, she appeared in her final film role, Wonderwell.
You reached it after all. Life can be just as magical with this garden, only it's a lot more fun.
Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Not only was he setting the business alight with his work as the Black Panther in the MCU, but Boseman was also the go-to actor for biopics after portraying Jackie Robinson and James Brown, among others. Yet, to make it even more impressive, he had been secretly facing bowel cancer since 2016. Sadly, in 2020, the disease caught up to him, and Boseman passed away. A couple of months later, Boseman's final live-action film was released, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Now, Death got some style. Death will kick your ass and make you wish you'd never been born. That's how bad Death is, but you can rule over life.
His performance earned him an Oscar and BAFTA nominations, as well as a Golden Globe. Boseman's final work was voicing T'Challa in Marvel's animated series What If, which aired in 2021, earning him a deserved Primetime Emmy.
Should we be bowing? I feel feel like we should be bowing. I mean, unless we should be kneeling.
Neither is necessary.
Please, you are a lord.
It is not an official title, nor is it one I am comfortable with.
Richard Harris, Cayena, The Prophecy. A Golden Globe and Grammy-winning actor, as well as a multi-time Oscar nominee, Harris was already an icon in the industry by the time he was cast in 2001's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone as Albus Dumbledore.
That is one of my more brilliant ideas. And between you and me, that is saying something.
In 2002, several months before Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was released, the Irish actor was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Unfortunately, after a couple of months, the disease eventually took his life. Dumbledore was later recast with fellow Irish actor Michael Gambon, taking on the wizard role. After Harry Potter, Harris's final role was voice acting for the French animated film, the 2004 English dub of Cayena, The Prophecy.
Are you gods?
No. My name is Opaz. I am a mortal just as you are.
Clark Gable, The Misfits. One Oscar win plus 2 other nominations, 2 Golden Globe nominations, and appearing in over 65 productions, Gable had an acting career that anyone would be jealous of. After all, with his star power and signature mustache bringing him a fortune, it was no wonder he was known as the King of Hollywood.
I do declare I was surprised that you turned out to be such a noble character.
I can't bear to take advantage of your little girl ideas, Miss O'Hara. I am neither noble nor heroic.
But you are a blockade runner.
For profit, and profit only.
In 1960, Gable was cast opposite Marilyn Monroe for The Misfits. However, less than 2 weeks after filming had finished, Gable went to the hospital with a suspected heart attack. A second attack developed an infection that sadly took his life. 3 months after the tragedy, The Misfits was released, marking Gable's final bow as an actor.
Honey, we all gotta go sometime, reason or no reason. Dying's as natural as living. A man who's too afraid to die is too afraid to live.
John Ritter, 8 Simple Rules. On September 17, 2002, ABC began airing a sitcom called 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. John Ritter starred as an uptight and overprotective father named Paul Hennessy.
I just figured it's time. Our daughters are maturing, and, it'd be foolish of me not to use expert resources that are available right at my fingertips.
The first season was a huge ratings success for the network, but Ritter passed away shortly into the second. While rehearsing on set, Ritter started vomiting and experiencing severe chest pain, so he was rushed to a nearby hospital. He was treated for a heart attack, but his affliction was later found to be an aortic dissection. Ritter died later that night, coincidentally in the very same hospital in which he was born.
Ritter's sudden death was blamed on a heart condition that is hard to detect, but not as rare as you might think.
The ratings of 8 Simple Rules plummeted without Ritter, and it was canceled after 3 seasons.
He would say anything. He didn't care how silly he was. Just wanted to make us laugh. I'm really gonna miss that.
Roy Kinnear, The Return of the Musketeers. A British character actor, many people recognize Roy Kinnear as Veruca Salt's father from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Hey, Daddy, I want an Oompa Loompa. I want you to get me an Oompa Loompa right away.
All right, Veruca, all right. I'll get you one before the day's out.
I want an Oompa Loompa now.
Kinnear worked a lot with director Richard Lester, and he starred in 3 of his Musketeers movies. He would die during the production of the third. While shooting, Conir fell off a horse and suffered both a broken pelvis and internal bleeding. The injuries were severe and put great strain on Conir's body, and he died of a heart attack the following day.
It's very hard to express the loss that was felt by so many people, friends and strangers, on hearing this news.
Conir's family later won multiple settlements over his death. They sued the production company for their sloppy health and safety measures, and they later went against the Madrid hospital in which Conir died for their poor quality of care.
5-4, come on! 3, 2, 1, go. I like to observe the correct procedure, you see. Thank me for it in the end.
Oliver Reed, Gladiator. Coincidentally, Oliver Reed starred alongside Roy Kinnear in the Musketeers films, playing Athos. He later found great acclaim portraying Antonius Proximo in Gladiator, although this would be his final role.
I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me. crowd, and you'll win your freedom.
Reed suffered from alcohol use disorder, and on May 2nd, 1999, he got into a drinking competition with some sailors while filming in Malta. He drank about $600 worth of alcohol before competing with them in arm wrestling. Following the fights, Reed collapsed and died of a heart attack.
Reed, who was 61, appeared in 100 films. One of his co-stars was Glenda Jackson, who said of him tonight, "I'm sorry he's gone, but I think he probably went the way he would have wished."
Gladiator was finished with the help of CGI and a body double, and Reed was posthumously nominated for a BAFTA. John Eric Hexum, Cover Up. This male model was cast as Mac Harper on an 80s CBS action show called Cover Up. He appeared in just 8 episodes of the show before passing away at 26.
Tell me, do you have access to weapons, special truth chemicals?
Access?
Can you get your hands on them?
Well, I get my hands on anything I need to survive, any place in the world, but I don't know what the hell that's got to do with modeling.
To film an action scene, Hexum was given a functional .44 Magnum that was loaded with blanks. Bored between takes, Hexum decided to play Russian roulette with the gun, seemingly unaware that blanks fired at such close range can cause serious harm.
Hexum was rushed from the 20th Century Fox lot to nearby Beverly Hills Medical Center, where he underwent several hours of surgery by a team of neurosurgeons.
Hexum suffered some horrible luck and fired the blank directly into his head. He underwent emergency surgery and stayed on life support for about a week, but he was eventually declared brain dead. He was then taken off, and his organs were donated to those in need, including a 5-year-old child.
John Eric Hexum died in October of this year, but the lives he touched will continue to be brightened by his light forever and ever.
James Dean, Giant. To this day, James Dean is the only actor to have received 2 posthumous Oscar nominations for acting. He was nominated for his roles as Cal Trask in East of Eden and Jet Rink in Giant.
You make a very excellent cup of tea.
Yeah, well, I do a lot of things in a pinch.
Dean very famously died on September 30th, 1955, when his Porsche T-boned a Ford on what is now State Route 46 in California.
I used to fly around quite a bit. I took a lot of unnecessary chances on the highway.
Dean was raced to a nearby hospital, but he was declared dead on arrival. According to the book Ferber, a biography of Edna Ferber and her circle, Dean had not quite finished work on Giant at the time of his death. He was still required for dubbing and post-production, so his best friend Nick Adams filled in for his late companion.
Everybody thought I had a duster? Y'all thought old Spindletop old Burnett was all it was, didn't you? Well, I'm here to tell you it ain't, boy. It's here. And there ain't a dang thing you gonna do about it.
Natalie Wood, Brainstorm. Natalie Wood's death remains one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. Wood was quite popular throughout the 50s and 60s, but she took a hiatus to focus on her children.
I think, for me, I'm doing something that I used to think was not allowed, which is that I'm married and I have 2 beautiful children.
By late 1981, Wood was filming a comeback movie called Brainstorm with Christopher Walken. During a scheduled break, Wood, her husband, and Walken went on a yachting trip to Santa Catalina Island.
Everyone on the boat, including the ship's Captain Davern, had been drinking for much of the weekend.
On the night of November 28, 1981, Wood somehow went over the side and drowned. Suspicion has been repeatedly placed on her husband, Robert Wagner. He has been named a person of interest by the police, and the boat's captain claimed that Wagner was responsible for his wife's death.
He claimed that Wagner grabbed and smashed a wine bottle after going into a jealous rage over Wood and Walken's interactions.
Wood's sister was brought in to replace her for the filming of Brainstorm. John Candy, Wagons East. In 1994, legendary funny man John Candy was filming a movie called Wagons East in Mexico when he died of a heart attack in his sleep.
I guess a lot of things change in 20 years.
Candy was notoriously unhealthy through much of his professional life. He continuously struggled with his weight and tended to binge eat. He was also a very heavy smoker and drinker, and he was known to have a substance use disorder. It all took a toll on his body, and he passed away at just 43.
He was the sweetest man. I was so lucky to work with him. So lucky. It will be sad because he will be missed.
Candy had finished most of his scenes for Wagons East, and those that weren't were completed with the help of a body double and some clever editing. Aaliyah, The Matrix Reloaded. Known as the Princess of R&B, Aaliyah saw great success throughout the 90s and early 2000s. All 3 of her albums have been certified multi-platinum, and she had 5 singles reach the top 10 in the United States. She eventually found success in movies as well, starring as Akasha in Queen of the Damned.
Never fear me, Lestat. All your wishes have come true.
At the time of her death, Aaliyah was filming scenes for The Matrix Reloaded, as she had been cast as a character named Z. Tragically, Aaliyah died in a plane crash on the night of August 25, 2001.
Along with 8 passengers, Aaliyah, a young Brooklyn native and a talented singer and actress.
Aaliyah's footage was cut from The Matrix Reloaded, and the character of Z was recast with Nona Gay in the role. Chris Farley, Shrek. Like John Candy, Chris Farley did not take care of himself, and it led to a premature death at just 33.
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh?
Farley was a very heavy drinker and also used substances. By 1997, the year that Farley would die, his declining health was obvious to all. He was not only finding it difficult to perform, but he physically looked sick and grew exhausted easily.
Well, yes, you might say that I enjoy chocolate. Well, then feast your eyes on this little baby right here. How do you like this one?
This was especially evident when he hosted Saturday Night Live on October 25th. He was dead 2 months later, the result of a highly dangerous combination of multiple substances.
He was very religious. I don't know if you know that or not. He often went to Mass. Chris had so many demons, and he couldn't fight them.
At the time, Farley was nearly finished work on Shrek. Upon his death, Mike Myers was brought in as a replacement and re-recorded nearly the entire movie. Vic Morrow, Twilight Zone the movie. This actor died in what is arguably the most horrific on-set accident in the history of film. Morrow was shooting Twilight Zone the movie with 2 young actors named Micah Yin Lei and Renee Shin Yi Chen. The scene was very elaborate. A helicopter was flying overhead, explosions were going off, and Morrow was running across a body of water while holding the actors in his arms. A pyrotechnic went off and damaged the helicopter, causing it to spiral out of control. It quickly plummeted to the ground and landed right on top of the actors.
Set was closed down immediately after the accident, with the parents of the 2 children being rushed to a nearby hospital. They couldn't stop crying and screaming. The staff diagnosed them as being in shock.
This horrible accident resulted in lengthy court battles. The parents of the young actors were awarded an undisclosed settlement, as were Morrow's children. Philip Seymour Hoffman, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. This is another actor who tragically succumbed to substance use disorder. Hoffman used substances in university, but he entered rehab at 22 and stayed sober for much of his adult life.
And why did you decide to stop?
You get panicked. It was, I was 22 and I got panicked for my life. It really was. It was just that.
Unfortunately, he relapsed in 2013 and died soon after. On February 2nd, 2014, Hoffman was found dead.
Police say they responded to a 911 call from those friends at 11:36 this morning. When they arrived, 46-year-old Hoffman was unresponsive.
Further investigation showed that multiple substances were in his system. The official cause of death was acute mixed drug intoxication. Hoffman was nearly finished filming The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2, but the movie needed some last-minute rewrites to accommodate his sudden death.
And whatever she's doing, we conceived it. It was our plan all along.
Of course it was.
Tommy Cooper, live from... This was a very famous English magician who performed funny tricks on television.
Watch!
However, Cooper's career was waning by the late 70s as he fell deeper into alcohol use disorder. He also smoked up to 40 cigars a day.
Did you learn anything at school?
Did I learn anything at school?
Yes.
Well, I always say that the sun shines on the lower side of the hill.
Oh, I think that's terribly... I mean, that's...
What does that mean exactly?
I don't know, but I always say it. I don't.
On April 15, 1984, Cooper was filming a live variety show called Live from Her Majesty's when he collapsed on stage. Everyone, including the audience and Cooper's own assistant, believed that it was an act. However, it soon became evident that something serious had occurred, and attempts to revive Cooper began backstage. He was taken to Westminster Hospital, but was declared dead on arrival, having passed from a heart attack. Marilyn Monroe, Something's Gotta Give. By the early 60s, Marilyn Monroe's life was in a downward spiral. The press was hounding her, producers didn't want to work with her, and her performances were being harshly criticized. Furthermore, she was divorcing her third husband, suffering from various health problems, and falling deeper into her substance use disorder.
Marilyn had grown dependent on sleeping pills during her rise to fame in Hollywood.
It ironically came to a head while filming Something's Gotta Give, and Monroe was fired on June 8, 1962. She was later rehired with the help of her co-star Dean Martin, and filming was scheduled to recommence the following October. Unfortunately, Monroe died of an overdose in August. To this day, many suspect that Monroe intentionally took her own life, although we may never know for sure. The movie was subsequently abandoned. River Phoenix, Dark Blood. In late 1993, River Phoenix was in Utah filming a movie called Dark Blood. In October, he flew back to Los Angeles and spent several days consuming substances with John Frusciante of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. On the night of October 30th, Phoenix was watching Frusciante perform at the Viper Room when he started feeling sick. He made his way outside, collapsed on the sidewalk, and began having convulsions.
Paramedics found him on the sidewalk.
He didn't have a heartbeat, didn't have a pulse.
An ambulance was called and Phoenix was rushed to Cedars-Sinai, but he died the following morning from the overdose.
In an open letter to the Los Angeles Times, River's mother, Hart Phoenix, wrote, River was not a regular drug user.
Some important scenes were still required for Dark Blood, and because Phoenix was no longer available, the entire movie was scrapped. It was later released in 2012 after some significant re-editing.
We got problems.
Bruce Lee, Game of Death. Shortly before his death, Bruce Lee was diagnosed with a cerebral edema, which is an accumulation of fluid in the brain. On July 20th, 1973, Lee was suffering from a headache and was given painkillers by a colleague. He then went to lie down for a nap and never woke up.
Betty called Raymond back at the restaurant in hysterics. She couldn't wake him up.
It was later theorized that Lee died from an allergic reaction to an ingredient in the painkiller, which exacerbated the cerebral edema. It may have also been exacerbated by heat stroke, as Lee had the sweat glands removed from his armpits. At the time, Lee was working on a movie called Game of Death. This was released 5 years later, with two martial arts experts crudely and quite obviously standing in for Lee. Paul Walker, Furious 7. The final scene of Furious 7 is iconic, with Dominic Toretto happily seeing off Brian O'Connor.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
This wasn't just Dom bidding farewell to Brian, it was also Vin Diesel, and the entire world for that matter, saying goodbye to Paul Walker. In the middle of filming, Walker and his friend Roger Rodas died in a horrible car crash in Santa Clarita, California.
The driver, Walker's friend, Roger Rodas, was a pro racer with championship titles to his name.
The decision was made to continue filming without Walker and to retire his character in a show of respect. Actor John Brotherton and Walker's brothers Caleb and Cody stood in for the late actor, and his face was superimposed over their bodies.
You'll always be with me. And you'll always be my brother.
Owen Hart, Over the Edge. It was May 23, 1999, and 16,000 people were sitting in Kansas City's Kemper Arena for a wrestling event called Over the Edge. Thousands more were watching at home.
The event plays to a sold-out crowd and airs live to hundreds of thousands at home.
The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin were headlining the main event. Owen Hart was also scheduled to fight The Godfather for the Intercontinental Championship. To make a dramatic entrance, Hart was being lowered into the ring from the rafters. Unfortunately, the escape mechanism was prematurely sprung, and Hart fell nearly 80 feet to his death.
Canadian Owen Hart, known as the Blue Blazer, was killed performing a pre-match stunt.
The accident was not broadcast on TV, but the thousands in attendance witnessed the fall. Hart was taken to the hospital and the show controversially continued. The audience was never informed of Hart's death.
Here's a vibrant guy that died unnecessarily before he could ever get to the peak of his career.
Brandon Lee, the Crow. Even those who don't believe in curses might think twice after hearing about the Lee family.
Do you know someone named T-Bird? He had a friend who shouldn't have played with knives. Like the coat?
Brandon Lee was 8 years old when his father Bruce died at the age of 32. Brandon would be even younger when he went, being just 28. Lee followed in his father's footsteps and started working in the film industry. He landed the role as the titular character in Alex Proyas' The Crow, and it was while filming this movie that he would die. While filming a violent scene, Lee was shot in the abdomen with a dummy bullet that had been lodged in the prop gun.
It was here at the Carolco Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, that actor Brandon Lee was filming The Crow. Ironically, the film is about a man who dies and comes back to life to avenge his death.
He was taken to a nearby hospital, but died after 6 hours of surgery.
I have something to give you. I don't want it anymore. 30 hours of pain.
Steve Irwin, Ocean's Deadliest. Steve Irwin was unlike any other zookeeper or TV personality. He had a certain charm and enthusiasm about him that garnered the attention of millions, and he quickly became the world's most popular wildlife expert.
My fondest memories are of catching crocodiles, and during the 80s I was up on my own with my little dog Suey, capturing some wild crocodiles.
But his dangerous line of work would eventually get the best of him. While filming a documentary called Ocean's Deadliest, Irwin was pierced in the heart by a stingray and quickly bled to death.
It's reported the environmentalist was killed after being stabbed by a stingray barb in the chest while filming an underwater documentary on the Great Barrier Reef.
The documentary was finished without Irwin and aired in January 2007. That was after an estimated 300 million people watched his memorial service at the Australia Zoo.
In everything he did, he was direct, he was genuine, and oh so Australian. And that is what we loved so much about him.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Heath Ledger, The Imaginarium of Doctor Parnassus. According to Heath Ledger's former partner Michelle Williams, Ledger frequently had trouble with insomnia.
You choose to have your little group therapy sessions in broad daylight. I know why you're afraid to go out at night.
While filming his final movie, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Ledger complained about his lack of sleep to his co-star Christopher Plummer. To deal with the insomnia, Ledger started misusing pills. In the afternoon of January 22, 2008, Ledger was found dead in his Soho apartment.
It was 9 years ago, 28-year-old actor Heath Ledger died of an accidental prescription drug overdose.
A toxicological analysis found multiple drugs in his system, and his death was ruled an accidental overdose of prescription medication. 3 friends of Ledger, Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law, were brought in to replace his character in The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. They played alternate versions of Ledger's character as he travels through magical realms.
Can I ask you a question? Do you dream? Or should I say, can you put a price on your dreams?
What other performers who passed away before seeing their final productions did we miss? Let us know in the comments.
It hurts me that I never got to say goodbye. That I won't get to see him again or talk to him.